Are we on?
Yeah.
Welcome to Thinking Women,
the Intelligent Conversation Show. Hello, everybody.
Amazing. So this is our second lockdown special, and we're delighted. We're going cross-border, cross-Atlantic today. So, and we've got Maria, who's in Miami, and we've got Hannah, who's in London. So we're going to introduce them in more detail in a moment. But yeah, thanks for coming back. It's just brilliant to see you.
Yeah, we're just so excited to have these wonderful ladies on. And so the premise of this show is we're going to do it a little bit different this time. Normally, when you've seen our studio show, we have more of an interview style. But this time, because we've got these epic ladies on, we thought we'd just have a bit more of a sort of conversation out of something that Mags and I were actually talking about between ourselves. And we just noticed how many of our friends and colleagues have said to us, we haven't even noticed, they've said to us, do you know what, during this 7 weeks, 8 weeks, however long we've been in lockdown, we've really changed. And when we go out back into the real world or normality or whatever that's going to be, things are going to be different. And we just thought that's just a really, really interesting topic to have a chat around, because I think it's happening to men, but I'm finding that it's really powerful with women for lots of reasons. There's obviously lots of reasons. So we're going to have a little chat around that, and practically and spiritually and energy-wise, and just why that's happening really at the end of the day. So shall I introduce the wonderful Maria Alejandra Rodriguez? My accent is not up to scratch.
It's beautiful, Lou. It's beautiful. I love it.
So Maria's, as I said, is in Miami, and we met online because I started doing one of Maria's Facebook courses and just loved everything that she had to say, and I just felt totally aligned with her. But you tell us about yourself, Maria Alejandra, and where you come from.
Absolutely. So hi, everybody. Maria Alejandra. You can also call me MA. I live in Miami. And like Lou said, we met at I did a free 3-day called Take a Leap Challenge on Facebook last week, because it's such a powerful time to be in that energy of creating something new, which is why I'm so passionate about the topic that you guys are bringing to the table today. And I said an immediate yes when Lou mentioned the possibility of me being part of this interview series, because I love what you guys are doing. Number one, so powerful, so valuable. And this specific topic of conversation I'm incredibly enamored with right now. And this week, I think, is the perfect week to really open this conversation up. I actually started talking about it even more vocally yesterday in my Facebook groups and my email to everybody that can listen, because one of the very strong messages that I want to send, especially to all those visionary, multi-passionate people out there, men, women, if you resonate with that sense of possibility, is that phrase, even the phrase going back to normal, I'm all about words. Words are so powerful. So as we say back to normal, like, who wants to go back? Like, I wish we could even eradicate the back. Like, let's move forward into what's new. Let's create what's new, which is what you guys are doing through this show, Lou and Mag. So I think that's so cool. So just a little bit about me. I'm a coach, a podcast host, a speaker. I'm also a wife, a mama. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, so I'm a Latina, very, very proud of my heritage and how I get to bring two cultures together here in what I do in my coaching. And I'm all about coaching very strategically and very intuitively. So I help primarily visionary women really step into their power, their authenticity, light up that spark of what they're ready to create, both from a place of mindset, also magic and momentum. Those are the 3 ingredients that I bring to everything that I do. I'm very left brain, right brain, so that's my reality. And so the more I speak to other visionary women out there that are up to big things, we typically have the same kind of outdated beliefs that are holding us back. And so when we're able to move through those and into a space of possibility, that's when we light up. And that's really become my mission in the past couple years that I've been doing this full time. I came from a corporate background, so I know what it's like to be in a space of feeling those fluorescent lights above and feeling like I do not belong in an office cubicle, whatever that looks like, and I'm meant for something else. And as I continue to find my footing in my own purpose and alignment with my vision and my sense of freedom, that's what I want to help others achieve as well. So amazing to be here, and thank you. Thank you.
Well, Emma, that's so lovely to hear. And I was listening to you and I was looking at Hannah, because Hannah and I met in the City of London, and we were both in investment banking. Hannah was in communications, I was in the sort of more analytical side of it. And we both felt, I think, the same, that you wanted to break out of this. And when you said the fluorescent lighting, I remember that. And also the little window of light that you could see. And I used to count the planes going into Heathrow and a triangle, and every 5 minutes, like one of them would go past. And I think, where are they going? Where have they been? So it's just such a big thing. And I think lockdown has given us that opportunity just to take a step back and just go, right, we're not in that environment. So anyway, moving on to my wonderful friend Hannah, who I met in London. So she runs Mind Mafia, which I'm sure she'll tell you a little bit more about. And I've been so impressed in the last few years of how you've actually made money and made a lifestyle of being out of the city. And I think the theme today, you know, Emma, you're talking about wanting to do it and how you do it. And then Hannah, you've got this beautiful story about how people can do it and the practical stuff. So we've got a really nice mix. Yeah, so Hannah, do you want to tell us a bit more about you?
Yeah, thank you. Hello, Emma. So I was banking for nearly 20 years in the communications route. And then I skipped out of that. I had a love for behavioural science, so I'd been doing it on the side. I'd kind of commissioned work, you know, from my employer when I was still that side. I just got to a point where I could not do it anymore, made the leap. So I set up a behavioural insight agency, so that's applying psychology to real world problems, so applied psychology. And that's Behave London, which is more the corporate arm. And then a progression over time, I also started a network for women, which is in the city, it's Women in Pensions. And that's gone from 8 people at the first drinks to over 500 now. And that's a regular thing. We've also moved online for, you know, this period. And then I run mindmafia.com. And Mind Mafia is, I think we go on this journey, you know, particularly if you've come out of corporate, you start with what you know. So I started, you know, serving corporate clients. That was like the majority of my income. And over time, I knew I wanted an online model because, you know, we've had Brexit in this country. We knew that it was coming. I thought that that was likely to impact my clients in terms of their budgets and so on. And so I wanted to have, you know, multiple income streams. So I set up Mind Mafia. I've got a course on how to price using psychology. I do some business coaching on that. It's not a lot of one-to-one because it's much more a kind of one-to-many model. And I've been surprised. I mean, it took me a really long time to get that off the ground and to start making courses, but it's great. And I love the scale of it. I love the feedback. You know, people take the courses, they tell you exactly what they thought, and I'm sure Emma will agree, they'll tell you what's missing, they'll tell you what they didn't like, they'll tell you where there's a sound glitch at like 3 minutes 20 that's this big that you need to go and fix. So actually it's a very different experience, whereas with corporate clients, you do something and they'll tell you a bit if they're unhappy, but on the whole, they just won't commission you again. So you're quite often working in the dark, you know, it's just kind of like doing everything and hoping it goes well. Whereas when you're selling to individuals, particularly the entrepreneur space, because they are entrepreneurs themselves, they'll give you feedback and they'll ask for what they want and they'll ask for what's missing. So I think you develop much more and you become a jack of all trades. You know, when you work in a big corporate, you specialize, it's very narrow and you get paid a lot of money to do something very, very niche and specific. And then it feels like as a business, when you're serving lots of people, you know, you're doing online courses, you have to kind of know everything. You have to know sales and marketing and tech and podcast equipment and audio and cameras and the whole thing. It's mind-blowing. But at the same time, you also become very, very niche because you're serving, you know, the internet is a really big place and you've got to be really specific. So it's like I teach entrepreneurs how to price, but it's like I teach you how to apply psychology to doing business stuff to be more effective.
Nice. Do you think there's an intimacy about online that you don't get at corporate? Because I think back to, you know, a great big room, trustee training, 100 people in there. I wouldn't probably speak to any of them individually. Whereas online, you've got the chat function, you've got the ability for people to come to you. I mean, what do you think about that, Emma? Do you find that online is more intimate, which goes against what we would have thought?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love what Hannah was saying. Hannah, everything you're saying, I'm like, tick, tick, tick. Like it checks all the boxes in my head because and I think the way you say it so beautifully about entrepreneurship brings its whole new level of flexibility and expansion of your talents. And I think to your point, Mag, about the intimacy, Mags, it's more intimate, I think, because it's more of you. It allows you to really blossom into a different level of authenticity, of vulnerability, of access, where, you know, especially when you're launching you're launching a message, a product. And when I say message, I'm talking about product, something tangible that you're saying, like Hannah's message is that here's how you can create your business online. I'm going to give you all the tools. My message is, you know, let's align your mindset, your magic, your momentum to make you create incredible things. And we create products aligned with that. The intimacy comes because we become more and more of who we are in the process of blossoming into our entrepreneurial selves. And so people really relate to that. And people will tap into the energy of what you're bringing to the table. And the more I found in my experience, the more vulnerable, open, the more me I am, the more people are like, they perk up and it's like, yes, like more of that. Like sometimes they can't even quite explain what that is, right? Hannah's smiling. She's like, yep.
But
it's like,
sorry,
Julie. No, go ahead.
That's literally what's happening to so many people. And that's the inspiration behind what we want to talk about today, because, okay, you guys have taken that leap and you're doing that thing. And so Mags and I, to a certain degree, are. But I think a lot of us, we've had this unprecedented mental space to really think about ourselves and that intimacy with our own personality and our own hopes and our own dreams. So take away all the noise of life and the clutter and all the craziness. We go inside our houses, inside ourselves. And what people are finding there is the real them, possibly. Yeah. Or would you agree? And then that's then sparking off this energy for people going, do you know what? I don't really want to necessarily go back to what I had before, or I want to change what I've got. I can, and I now know I can. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's the part that just lights me up. Like every single cell in my body is like, because I'm wired for possibility and I'm wired for like how to then make something happen. And so when someone finds themselves in that space of openness, I think it's one of the most beautiful gifts we've been given. And for some people, it looks like, wow, I've had all this time to think. And for other people, it might be like, wow, I feel this just very jarring difference between the life I used to lead and what I'm experiencing now in my body. And sometimes you can't even explain it, but you know that as you maybe even creep back into the normal, you're like, this does not resonate with me anymore, because your system's been given a chance to kind of experience something new. I'd love to hear what Hannah has to say about it too.
Yeah, I think from my own experience, there's definitely sometimes these things are forced. Like I had a redundancy, and that gave me time to kind of transition. I did like 18 months of consulting, and during that time I wasn't an employee, and there's that kind of detachment from work being your personality or like being reflective of you. And it's very much at a corporate level, you are expected to behave and be less you. And I mean, particularly for me working in finance, which who knows how I ended up there, but this is, this is not the place for me. But yeah, it's like even kind of dialed down too much personality. Whereas I think when you have time alone, it's a lonely business being an entrepreneur. And I always say it's a magnification, right? So whatever faults you have, whatever your failings are, they will be magnified 10 times. If you hate doing taxes, you better have an accountant. It's like the things that you hate to do are magnified, and nobody's making you do them. So there's that shift over time from kind of being externally accountable, and you're gradually more and more internally accountable. But because of that, it becomes much harder to do the things you don't like to do. And I always say I coined a word, like you have an epiphany. People have epiphanies. I always say it's an epiphanot. It's you just wake up one day and you go, I cannot do this anymore. Like, I'm done. It's that traction. You can't move because your whole physical being just goes, I don't want to get out of bed for that. I don't want to take the call. And I think you get quite physical feedback. I'm like the least woo-woo person, but you do get quite physical feedback on the direction you should go in. And for me, I find that whenever you have friction, like it's hard for you to do something, is a big sign that you're doing the wrong thing. And I found that for me creating the course, like when I tried to do it the right way and be very corporate about it and bringing my experience from that kind of very polished end, which is still in the course, but it was very hard for me to get it done. And then when I switched, I just went, I want this to be fun for me. I want to enjoy making it. I want it to make me laugh, because humour is such a big part of me and what I do, that if it doesn't make me laugh, I don't want to do it. I'm entertaining myself, and if someone buys it, fantastic. But ultimately, I have to be happy that I made it, and it gets much more back to that creativity.
And that came from you, Hannah. So that didn't come from going to work and having an external influence. That came from inside you. And I think, my experience and just talking to friends has been that this lockdown situation where you're having to look inside you and find the things that spark you, and they're very honest, because that's all we have inside of us. Yeah, we've got Netflix, we've got telly, we can Skype people, whatever, but primarily we've been pretty much on our own or with our families, and we're having to look for that. And I think there's an honesty and a real just truth. And when you have that, you get the best out of people. I'm not going to say that lockdown's been great for everyone. I'm sure it hasn't. I know it hasn't. So I think it's about it being different and finding things that are different within it. It's one question I did want to pose to both of you. So are you the same person coming out of lockdown, whenever that is, than you were going in? So Emma, do you want to start? What's your view?
No, I'm a more evolved version of me. It's not about, I'm big into, it's not about changing who you are. It's becoming more of who you are. When we change who we are, then we're fitting into some sort of mold that feels constricting. It's like the box that we're trying to get out of. So I'm all about evolving, adapting into what's next, feeling that sense of inner empowerment of responding to the situations around us and circumstances around us, not reacting from a victim mentality. So regardless of, I know there's a big spectrum of experiences of the lockdown, but the more someone can really step into their sense of feeling empowered, even if it's just a tiny glimmer of, how do I respond to this rather than react to this? Like, how do I respond from a place of power rather than victimhood? That's, I think, the real secret to thriving in any situation. And I've become a more evolved version. I have felt a sense of clarity, a sense of, even understanding my priorities at a deeper level. The connection that I've fostered with my husband, with my son, with the people close to me has been really beautiful.
Yeah, Lou and I spoke about that earlier today, those connections with family and the people that really matter. You've had to work at those relationships because those have been the people closest to you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
When we are forced into that, sorry to interrupt you, but I was just thinking, society has kind of changed. The way we communicate, our community has changed. So when we go back into I don't know if we call it the normal world. I don't even know what we call it.
There's no going back now.
There's no going back.
Go forward.
Go back. Absolutely. When we go forward, leap forward into this. We are going into a different space, and it's how we're prepared for that is one thing maybe Hannah can elucidate a bit more on, but when we've spent time with our families, when I was that person. I used to live in London, and I worked in TV and music, so, but in the corporate side of it. So, you know, I'm so grateful every day that I moved to Cornwall to bring up my children here. And this was 20 years ago. That was my shift then. I mean, we all had many shifts after that, but that was a big shift at that point. You know, it was a crazy thing to do, it seemed. But I'm so grateful, because at least it meant that I have been present in my children's lives as they've grown up, and they're now 20 and 21 and 23. But if I'd stayed in London with my amazing job that I loved and was fabulous, I know that I would not have been at all present, because I would have had to have kept on working, and I would have been fabulous. I mean, I had still had my standing, or whatever, you know, that thing, that whatever it is, that kind of empowerment thing of being somebody in this world, you know. And then I changed all that just to become a mum. But, you know, best thing I ever did. And you know, and you really start thinking, and I think that's what many people are really, really starting to understand, is, like we said, the relationship with themselves and the relationship with their closest family and friends, and appreciating.
And it is working it out, because I think you can be a parent in London and work and have.
I'm not saying that.
You know, I know. We spoke about this earlier, because we both had a similar experience. You totally can do it. For me, it's not right. I've got my children down here. That works better for me. And everyone is just in a different space with it. And children need different things, and it is just a completely different experience. So, but go back to the question, Hannah, are you a different person coming out, looking forward?
I'm definitely a fatter person.
Yeah, we're all fatter.
I love that.
The COVID stone, as they like to call it. Yeah,
I love that hashtag, the COVID stone.
Oh, I mean, I had to go for a blood test, and while I was there, the nurse said, "Oh, while you're here, let's do your blood pressure and hop on the scale." And I was like, "You're really going to weigh me in the middle of a pandemic? That's not really fair. My phone weighs at least 20 kilos." Yeah, I was very unimpressed by that, but there was no getting away from it. Yeah, so am I a different person? Yeah, I think for me, I just got a puppy in January, so I spent a couple of months indoors. I worked by myself. And so I was just getting to that point of, like, out in the world, re-engaging. I can go and sit in a coffee shop. And I'm sure Emma will agree that it is that thing of, when you work for yourself, it's really vital, because you're home and you're doing stuff, to be able to just go out and potter around the shops, or go out and have a coffee and work on the laptop somewhere, because you need some kind of people interaction to get you out of your head and to see people, because conversations help you move things along. So it's been especially hard, I think. I mean, I would say that, you know, we kind of, if you work from home, you're almost isolated already. And then this was like the extra layer, so to the nth degree. So yeah, connecting with people, getting in touch. I think for me, the real recognition was that who I am as a person, I need to create stuff. And what I found is I wasn't able to create work stuff for a really long time, because it was too distracting, watching the news. You know, I found I'd ground to the hall. And so I went back to what I would do 20 years ago. I made some jewellery. You know, it's that the act of creation is something that is very much part of me, and that I need to do for my mental well-being, whether it is crafting or baking a cake or whatever it is. And it's recognising that if I'm just stuck in work, I also needed to take that through. I think there are a couple of things, like from a behavioural science perspective, that we're seeing. Like, so status quo is one of the strongest biases that we see in people, right? We always do what we've always done, because it's the friction of having to do something new is too hard. Like, so our brains run, you know, your brain gets used to something, and then it kind of runs on this subroutine. It does it without thinking, because that way it burns less calories. It's very simple survival mechanism, right? So in order to actually do something new, you have to expend more calories, and your brain doesn't like that. It's very lazy. So it tries to stop you doing it, right? It's survivally, you know, bad calories as far as it's concerned. So for a lot of us, this shift from being in offices and being home, from employers who said you can't work from home, you have to be in the office. And now it's like, you all must work from home, don't you dare come to the office. There's this Gestalt shift, right, which is you can't tell people that it's not viable for them to work from home when they've just done it for 2 months or 3 months or however long. And so there's this shift away from the status quo that you get to see it fresh. Like if you're trying to break someone out of the status quo, right, you force them to think about it as a reversal. What if everybody worked from home? And then you had to make the case for having offices in central London that are super expensive. It becomes less viable. And I've heard from people that when one of them had to dial into a meeting, they felt very isolated. But when 12 people are dialing into a video meeting, all of a sudden, people are taking their turns and they feel it's included. So I think for women, especially people with children at home who felt very isolated, it's been a great leveller. And there's this other thing about confirmation bias, right, which is we look for evidence to emphasize what is already true, right, our own beliefs. Working from home, people are lazy, blah, 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 blah. It's easy to do it from the outside, right, until it's you. And that's because we make narrative, right? We make stories up. That's how our brains make sense of the world, right? We tell stories. They don't have to be true. It's just how our brains process information. And so everyone's shifting to this kind of understanding that you have to actually connect with people rather than just issue orders. That checking in with the team is really important. So all of those kind of matter-of-fact things that seem kind of a bit like, oh, we'll do that meeting next week, it becomes really transparent if someone's not doing their job. So I think for a lot of people, there's a big shift. But yeah, for me personally, fatter. And I'm really looking forward to someone else making me a coffee.
I'm really glad you're the one that mentioned the eating. Thank you. I do healthy living and I'm on the internet the whole time, not pretending, I am making protein shakes, but actually I've eaten more pastry than I've ever eaten in my whole entire life. Cornish pasty.
Carbohydrates are nature's sedative.
I'm fully sedated. Anyway, we're going to be running out of time shortly. So to be honest, ladies, we could go on all night, couldn't we? I think, but we're going to run our little time slot. So maybe just to wrap up, from both of your perspectives, maybe just as a final couple of tips moving forward, when all our audience, when we all go forward into that next phase, have you both got a couple of top tips?
I'll go. And by the way, Hannah, I was geeking out over here at everything you just dished out, because that's the part of me that's like, oh, I could have heard you for another 3 hours, like talking about all that stuff. Because I love all that behavioral science stuff. So I was like, oh, more.
Part 2 of the show.
Yeah, please, let's keep it going. So yes, tips. You know what's come up for me from the beginning of this whole experience, I've been calling it the great shift, and it's a great shift both very personally and collectively. And so there's so many things that we can engage in, right? There's the doingness of sparking a new idea into life. I'm really big about creating momentum, taking leaps, actually taking action, inspired action. But I'd say the one most, my big encouragement is to really tap into that sense of openness within you. And when we tap into that sense of openness and possibility, it is a very intimate space because you're getting to know yourself at a deeper level. What Hannah mentioned earlier, that there's a friction to starting something new, is very real. So acknowledging that friction, acknowledging that you're bumping into a comfort zone when your heart, your soul, your brain starts to vibe at a place where it's like, what if this could look different? What if I could shift that paradigm of how I've been living my life? I've seen a new reality. I've seen a new possibility. It's like when nothing is certain, everything is possible. So how can we hold on to the essence of whatever you experienced at a deep level and give yourself the space to tap into it? And I find one of the most beautiful ways to do that is actually to be in community. So to connect with others that are like-minded, that are also asking the same questions. Like, oh, I love that Lou and Mags created this topic based on conversations they've had with real women in their lives and women they've interviewed, because I'm in Miami, you guys are in the UK, we're all having the same conversation, and the guys too. So how can we come into community and have the conversations together so that you're talking to someone who gets it? Because unfortunately, the rhetoric outside is a very kind of drifty, default hamster wheel conversation of let's all get back to normal. And, and it's like how easy it could be for us to just everybody dip back into some new, like, not even new, some old, like, treadmill of what it used to be like, and forget how you felt, the intimacy that you felt with yourself, that spark of possibility and knowing within you. So my recommendation is a heartfelt, just stay open, stay curious. And if there's something within you that you're ready to take an inspired action on to create, then do it, because that then gives your system the evidence to show that that is possible. And then that other little thing is possible, and so on and so forth. So, I think it's a beautiful time. It's a challenging time, but it's a time where our resilience can birth something absolutely new that you couldn't even think was possible before. So how powerful to step into that and to do it both within yourself and together with others who are ready for that shift as well.
Amazing. And Hannah, over to you.
I come from the super practical end, which is 1, make sure the camera is level with your eyes. I'm tired of looking up at people's nostrils generally. Get a good camera, plug it into your computer, get a good microphone, plug it into your computer. I mean, up-leveling your Zoom game, always a good one.
Can I
say the other thing is, like,
point, so very quickly, Hannah came down to visit me in Cornwall about probably 12 months ago, and she went through my house and she's like, this is where you need your light ring, this is where you need your PC, this is where you need to do this, and it was amazing, just on a practical level, totally amazing. Thank you so much. So I'd say if anyone's not sure how to get a setup online, ask Hannah. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in addition, there's a couple of things, like particularly if you're making things to sell online, I think when people transition out of corporate, right, there's that temptation to just do consultancy, but your time isn't scalable because you're going to die. It's pretty finite. So it's that feeling of trying to create something that's an online product, whether it's a downloadable, a podcast, whatever you're good at, right? If you hate talking to a camera, but you've got a nice voice, record audio to download. If you like to write something, someone else can turn it into slides. If you're terrible at design, get someone else to do that. It's that, what are you good at? Just do that. And I think there's a real self-limiting thing of, but nobody wants that, but nobody will buy that. And it's like, I know, I'm sure Emma's the same. I follow someone who's an entrepreneur who teaches people how to sell. And I know she's made $100,000 this month. And I watch what she does and I'm like, okay, I need to do that. And it's that, one, investing in your own education, but also recognizing that the internet is a very big place, and that long tail of demand, right? That super specific thing that you want to talk about, somebody wants to buy it, they're waiting for you to make it. And I know from my own feedback from my own course, like, it's like, oh, that was just action. Like, there's no waffle, it's just action. It's very, like, fast paced and cutting, and it's funny, it's quirky, not particularly deliberately, but because it's very much me. People are like, oh, I love that, I really enjoyed it. And so although I'm not a personal brand in that sense, of course I am, right? And as MJ says right at the start, it's about being you, in the same way that some people like you, some people hate you. As we would say here, you're Marmite, right? People either love you or hate you. And it's just, you have to be you. Like, nobody wants to pay money for vanilla. right? They are buying into you and what you do and what you can deliver, and they want you to be an expert, even if it's in some super tiny thing. You know, like when you search YouTube video and you're looking for something super specific. I'm like, how to make X in resin jewelry, right? I don't want to know how to make a table, right? I want that person that's going to tell me to do this super specific thing. And, you know, that's when you're prepared to pay money, right? When it fits your actual need, then, so I think we're so self-limiting. We go, oh, people don't want that. Do they? I don't know. Try it.
And that's it. It's
Love it.
Really helpful.
It's like listening to both of you just actually makes me really excited, because, you know, it's the time, if we can, if you're in that right space, if you're feeling that, it's time to find your authentic self, isn't it? And act on it, and just take the step, take the action. Because I don't know, and obviously we're talking to people who are in that mind space. Obviously we are aware that some people are not, but if you are in that mind space, then I don't think people are going to get another time like this to be able to act, that freedom, that space. So I think it's an exciting time, ultimately, if we make it so. You'd agree?
Yes.
Can be.
Yes.
Can
Yeah,
be.
definitely.
Well,
Well, thanks, guys. I'm so I'll use a Cornwall phrase here. I'm so stoked to have you both together, like from either side of the Atlantic. It's been amazing. And we are going to be back, Lou, in studio, actually.
Yes,
we're in
back in
studio in
studio.
June. Yeah, we're booked back in.
Fully
Social
social
distancing
distance.
applies. Yeah, we're going to be back on the sofa in front of the camera, which is amazing. But we'll send your comments in, everyone at home. Let us know what you think. And it's just been a pleasure. Thank you, ladies, so much. It's been just
Thank you. It's amazing. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for having us, and congrats on what you're doing. Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye,
and you
ladies.
guys as well.
Well done.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.